In this lesson, we focus on a practical example of round trip between DaVinci Resolve and Avid Media Composer. As previously suggested, we'll be working with edited content, in other words, with a timeline completed in our nonlinear editor. We are in Avid Media Composer, where we have finalized edits of our sample project. Our project resolution is set to HD 1080, and we're using 25 frames per second. We made two image adjustments when editing, so we'll keep an eye on how these changes are transferred into DaVinci Resolve. We have flipped this shot horizontally, using the flip effect. And in this one we used 115% zoom, making the image slightly larger. Moving on to the first step of round trip, we continue by exporting the edit list. Avid Media Composer works best with AAF edit lists, so we'll select this format. Select the timeline in the bin and choose Export. We'll be transferring the video files only as a link to the source clips, so that we avoid creating additional copies. As was mentioned before, the transfer can be checked using a reference video. We therefore export a video preview from our nonlinear editor as well. A lower resolution and quality settings will suffice. Let's use half HD, that is 960 by 540 pixels. We can obviously use any format DaVinci Resolve recognizes, even MP4, for example. It doesn't matter where the reference video is stored, but I'm placing it into the edit list folder for easy orientation. This finalizes our steps in Avid Media Composer, and we are ready to move on to DaVinci Resolve. Once here, we open the Edit panel. In the timeline window, we call up the menu with a right-click and select AAF Edit List Import. Check the preset parameters. Since a timeline of identical parameters, that is in HD 1080 with 25 frames per second, is preset in our DaVinci Resolve settings, we can leave the automatic timeline setting unchecked. But let's check the automatic import of source clips into the media pool, which saves time we'd otherwise spend doing the import manually. We also want the image sizing information to be transferred into the timeline. Click OK, and the program asks us to select the folder containing our source files. We then select the Avid Media Composer folder, where our source files are located. As we can see, the edited timeline has been created in DaVinci Resolve. The application also notifies us that the flop effect created in Avid Media Composer, also called horizontal flip, has not been transferred. Let's check whether all else has been transferred properly from Avid Media Composer. We'll make use of our reference video, which we first import in the media pool. However, it is crucial to import the reference video properly, since reference videos are not imported the same way as our source material. Already when importing, it must be checked in the menu as an offline reference. A small label is then attached to the reference video at the bottom corner that indicates all our reference videos in the media pool. We return to the timeline and with a right-click call up the menu. We link our reference video to the timeline, and as we can see, the DaVinci timeline which we had obtained from the AAF list can be viewed in the right window. Switching the button, the reference video is displayed on the left. Comparing the left and the right windows, we can evaluate differences between the Avid Media Composer and the DaVinci timelines. The first two shots have been transferred correctly. In the third shot, as we already know, the horizontal flip has not transferred properly. The next section looks fine. The 115% zoom we applied to the clip has also properly transferred. So let's fix the issues we've found. The clip can be flipped horizontally in one of two ways. We can either go to the media pool, locate the clip and select horizontal flip from its attributes. Let's now make a step back and undo the correction. The other option is the color panel. The horizontal and vertical image flip button is located in the sizing window. And our timeline has been corrected. One note regarding the reference video. It may happen that despite doing everything correctly, you will not see any clips. In such cases, the most frequent reason is an incorrect reference video timecode. If that happens, it can be adjusted under clip attributes in the media pool. We are now ready to start with color corrections, in other words, with grading using the color panel. I will skip this part here and move ahead to the point when our grading is completed and we're trying to move it back to Avid Media Composer. So let's switch to the delivery panel. We can keep the basic settings. We locate the Avid Media Composer preset and select this round trip. The resolution and compression settings may not exactly correspond to the source files. Here we can set new parameters if we plan on continuing in a different resolution or quality. I'll keep the settings identical to the source file settings. So what does this type of round trip preset do? It exports the graded files as well as a new AAF edit list into a selected folder. We place the folder into Avid Media Files, next MXF, and create a new number, say 210. We're ready to export. And when it is completed, we check that the files have been saved properly. We should find the graded video files in the appropriate folder together with the new AAF edit list. This completes our work in DaVinci Resolve, and we can move back to our nonlinear editor, the Avid Media Composer. Avid Media Composer indexes the new files. Let's create a new bin for the graded files. We drag in the database file from folder 210, and a link to the graded files has been created in the bin. We import the saved AAF list in the bin, and a new timeline containing the graded clips has been created. This concludes round trip between Avid Media Composer and DaVinci Resolve.